Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jim Harpering, Town Manager with the Town of Indian River Shores. We're here to discuss the septic to sewer and paving projects, stormwater retrofit projects that are going to be taking place on Beachcomber Lane and Pebble Lane. Just a couple of introductions. To my far left is Arjuna Varagota. He is with the City of Vero Beach. To my direct left is Mike Foreman. He's with Kimley Horn. He's an engineer working on the project. To my right is Fred Held. He's our building official. And to his right is Brad Searcy. He's with GRSC Construction. We also have Tony Vincent with GRSC Construction and Jake Mykrantz with our building department here. And Heather and Mike, thank you very much for making all the technical stuff work. I appreciate it. We are recording this, so if anybody would like a copy of the recording, please let us know. There are a number of people that have reached out to us that are unable to be here, so we wanted to make sure that we could provide them this information as well. By way of brief background before we start the PowerPoint, the legislature passed a mandate, unfunded mandate, that all properties within designated areas, and we lie in one of those designated areas, has to convert to sanitary sewer if someone is on a septic system, or enhanced nutrient reduction systems by 2030. Now, the cost of the septic to sewer conversion per the legislature, the state legislature, is the obligation of the property owner. And the town has roadway evaluations that we conduct on a regular basis for repaving and also installation of stormwater management systems. Those would be the Miami curbs and the drainage systems to help us with nutrient reductions and stormwater management. In order to try to mitigate the costs to the property owners, the town reviewed our road evaluations and coordinated these two paving projects with the City of Vero Beach. In that way, the town is responsible for the road paving projects, and by the town I mean the taxpayers, and of course we have an infrastructure fund, and that's where we're paying for the roadway and the stormwater work, and the property owners are responsible, again, per the state mandate, for the cost of the septic to sewer portion. The meeting today is, or we hope to have, fairly narrowly focused on the construction project itself, the actual construction and installation. We will be scheduling another meeting at which Rob Bolton, the Utilities Director with the City of Vero Beach, will be present. That meeting will be directly related and exclusively related, hopefully, to all of the financial obligations and the financial process by which these connections are going to be paid for. Again, we can touch on those very briefly, but as I noted, we will have another meeting that's narrowly focused on that. Won't necessarily involve our construction team or our engineering or otherwise. Did have a few preliminary questions that I just wanted to address that we received by email. One has to do with connections. Any licensed plumber can do the sewer line connection work. That can occur after the final Department of Health approvals and reviews of the sanitary sewer lines. And also any licensed contractor licensed to do so can conduct any abandonment or removal with permits through Department of Health for any current septic systems that happen to be in the ground. We're going to talk about a timeline and have a timeline for you. Keep in mind that timeline is our best estimate. It's very general. We're going to try to keep to it. In the optimum, we will get ahead of it, but there are certain factors over which none of us have any control, primarily weather, but that's why we tried to accelerate the process of the construction. I believe, Brad, we've already started some videography and some items like that. So we're going to do our best to communicate with everyone here. So I want to mention a couple things in regards to communication. As you know, we have a septic to sewer at indianrivershores.gov email address. That comes to our team here at the town. And if you have any questions or issues or problems or concerns as we go through, please email us at septictosewer@indianrivershores.gov. I ask you to do that because there are a number of people on that email, and it's more likely than not that you'll get a very quick, appropriate response by sending questions through that email. Of course, you're always welcome to call or, or come through the door and ask, as it were. Additionally, we're going to be setting up a text group primarily to send notifications if there are any substantive or demonstrable changes that we need to let everybody on Beachcomber or Pebble know. That will not be a text us back type of text group. It's going to be more of a, hey, you'll see trucks tomorrow, even though we said it was going to be Friday, we're a little early. So things like that. I did also have a question that was emailed regarding, again, use of bathrooms and things like that during the project, but I believe that I addressed that at least superficially in a way relative to getting a licensed contractor, plumber to do the hookups. That will essentially be, timing-wise, that'll be up to the property owner once the line is permitted and approved through Department of Health. Up to this point, are there any questions? Maybe I'll ask you to hold on to them. Maybe they'll be answered through the PowerPoint that we're going to do right now. Oh, okay, good. Someone's in charge. So this is our timeline. Yes, sir.
I just want to know, what's the cost to us?
And as I referenced earlier, we're going to have a separate meeting that's going to be specifically dedicated to the cost. That's going to be essentially hosted by the City of Vero Beach, so their utilities director can be here, and we can go over all of the cost issues. We anticipate that that meeting should hopefully be within, a couple of weeks at most. We'll notify you again through email and by a mailer. But Mr. Bolton was unavailable to be here today, and we wanted to get this meeting, this construction meeting, out of the way because we're starting. I'm very pleased that our contractor was very anxious to get started because we're all concerned about hurricane season and so on. So we will have a much more detailed meeting on all of the cost issues associated with that as I said, hopefully within about 2 weeks. I just need to coordinate the date with Mr. Bolton, the Utilities Director, and that meeting will be exclusively dedicated to finances.
Are you going to give us another one of these?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I note again, we'll email you this PowerPoint if you leave your email address with us. And this is our a generalized timeline. We've actually already started in terms of the pre-construction video, and mobilization will begin next week. And you can see the various items and topics or parts of the project that are going to occur in what particular time frame and at what particular location. Now again, I realize I'm not going to go through this in granular detail because you want a copy, we'll make you a copy right here, or we'll email it to you, which I recommend just taking the email. But it's possible, again, that this is accelerated or delayed based on a variety of factors. We're doing our best to get the project moving and going as quickly as possible, consistent with a high-quality product, which everyone wants. So once you get an opportunity to take a look at this, please feel free to email us with any questions about it. Again, we're going to do our best to stick to the timeline. So essentially, it's going to be a Beachcomber and then Pebble, and then back to Beachcomber and back to Pebble, depending on the nature of work. And I'll go through a couple of other things here. But again, when you have an opportunity to see the timeline, if you have any questions about it, just please let us know. Just want to briefly go over the maintenance of traffic, or the MOT, for mobilization and implementation. This is on Beachcomber Lane. We're going to do our best, as I'll note again later, to keep a lane of traffic open, to keep inconvenience to the bare minimum. We don't anticipate any long-term issues with driveways being unavailable. There might be short-term things if we're moving things or actually working on that driveway. But in speaking with our contractor, I'm very, very confident that they're going to do a great job in keeping the inconvenience to a minimum. And again, you'll have copies of these if you want. We'll send you the PowerPoint. Just make sure you leave us your email before you go. Excuse me. There's also MOT for A1A and Beachcomber as well, so we're going to do our best on that turn lane to have appropriate, the right turn lane, as well as obviously the incoming if you're coming from the north, to make sure that you have access and safe access. Obviously, public safety is aware of the project. We have certain requirements for flagmen and things like that, but public safety is aware they're going to be out there also making sure that everyone has good access. So as I noted, when possible, work's going to be confined to one lane only. The one lane will remain open for traffic, the other lane. Excavations are going to be backfilled with rock at the end of each workday. Let me go next. The plan is to open cut asphalt and install the sewer main and the connections. Work will then move to the opposite lane for completion of the sewer service portion. Drainage structures are going to be installed concurrently with the sewer. Excuse me. Upon completion of that work on Beachcomber, those crews are going to move directly to Pebble Lane and engage in the same work in the same sequence. This is the MOT for Pebble Lane. It's similar, though you don't have the other dedicated lane, but again, we'll have appropriate maintenance of traffic, flagmen, and public safety is aware. So asphalt crews will follow directly behind the pipe crews. Again, installation is going to be one lane at a time, and the asphalt crews will begin work on Pebble Lane as soon as the sewer work is complete. Then the concrete crews are going to mobilize to Beachcomber after the first lift of asphalt. Again, we have the curbing that's going to be going in for stormwater management, and then the curb and the driveway aprons will they will not take plane, they will take place. They will be leveled. I don't know what that level is, but I apologize for that misspelling. So every attempt is going to be made to allow our residents to access their driveways. Residents who have a single driveway may lose access for a short period of time at this stage. Keep in mind, relative to parking, if we get jammed up or there are any issues, the town, I've secured permission for parking and for mobilization and things like that for the lots right here at the end of Beachcomber. So if there is a jam up or something, if you leave and you have access and you come back and they're doing something and you don't, we'll manage that as best we can right there. But again, hopefully that won't be of any duration. So again, the goal is then to complete all sod, mailboxes, and any irrigation repairs and landscape replacements at that time. And then once complete, our contractor is going to put down the final lift on Beachcomber Lane and Pebble Lane. And again, I noted we'll have a follow-up meeting regarding the abandonment of the septic systems, the connections, and the costs as well. So with that, that's what I have in terms of our presentation. Again, it was fairly high level. As we go along, certainly we are very happy to answer any questions that we have as the process goes along. Again, I ask that you use the septic sewer email or come on call or come on over to the office, and we will, as always, do our best to get you the correct answer in a timely manner. So with that, we're happy to entertain any questions that we can answer about the construction process at this time, given that the Technical Brain Trust is here with me and they have all the answers. Yes, ma'am. And feel free to come on up or stand up or whatever you want to do.
I hear you say that the hookup will be separate from when you're putting in the drain?
Yes, that's correct.
The residential hookups will happen at a different time?
Yes. Yes, that's correct. And Mike, if you want to just mention with a little more detail,
Correct.
Sort of how that happens.
Correct. So this project is going to construct the main for the sanitary sewer and then the connections at your property or the town's right-of-way line. Once that construction is complete and all the testing is complete, I will resubmit permits for clearance for this sewer laterals and main. And once we receive that clearance, the homeowners then can make their connection from the property to that clean out at the right-of-way line.
I'll mention that briefly here, but again, we'll go into great detail in our next meeting. There are going to be two ways, well, really three ways to go ahead and pay for the property owner portion of this. One, you could pay upfront. That payment is not due until after the connection is made and final. Obviously, we're not asking you to pay for something that you're not getting service on. So that would be a time frame associated with that where you would make the connection, you would make your payment, there would be communication with the city, so then billing would be starting on that scenario. The second scenario is that the town has gone through a legal process to authorize us, the town, to put on the tax roll the cost to the taxpayer amortized over a 10-year period. This is through an interlocal agreement with the City of Vero Beach, with the Indian River Tax Collector's Office, and with the Property Appraiser's Office. It's very similar to the process that occurred when the town changed from direct billing to universal billing with solid waste, where the bill went on your tax bill. So, and then there's a hybrid of that, which is that for a straight entire amortization, you have up to 10 years to do that, and that would be on your tax bill. However, if you decided to put it on your tax bill, and at some point in time you decided to pay off the remainder, then you could go ahead and do that at any time in the calendar year. Our cutoff date is August 1st. The reason it's August 1st has to do with the requirements of the town to certify a tax roll to go to the tax collector, and that's the way they know who is still on the tax roll. If you do it before August 1st, then you'll be off the tax roll for the following year. But if you don't do it before August 1st, then you'll still be on the tax roll for the following year, but you could pay off early at any time during the 10-year period. And that question came up relative to either purchasing a home with one of those tax items on it, or selling your home and how that could be managed.
If you sell your house early on in that 10-year period, like some of us would be doing, so does that go to the next property owner, the rest of it?
It would either remain on the tax bill for that property and would have to be assumed, or, and we've discussed this, it's more likely than not that people are probably going to want to resolve that at closing, just to resolve it. But that's just information that generally has sort of come my way, that, well, if we do it that way, we can always, if I sell, we can resolve it at a closing, or, pay it before, or pay it in sum, or make it again part of the closing process. So that's the process for the payment. But we'll go into great detail about that at our next meeting. Yes, Ms. Morgan?
How do we handle garbage during this time, and also what do you recommend for like lawn services, pool services, that kind of thing?
Well, we've spoken with Waste Management, and that's all timing. Let's say timing, just because we're not, since we've gone with Waste Management, we're not at like every day. There's not something happening every day. So we're going to be able to arrange for either, if there's a short period of time that we can't get a truck down there on a garbage collection day, we'll get people to come down, bring those carts up, and make that piece happen. But our goal is to coordinate where that in and of itself is not an issue. It certainly may be. Now, as to the lawn maintenance people, relative to the project and what may be going on at any particular time, they may have to adjust, they may be able to get by. Note that one lane of traffic we're going to try to keep open. So for landscapers that can't park in your individual driveway, to keep their trailer or their equipment off the road and out of the way, and really out of the way of our people that are doing work. If they need to, park their trailer for a couple of hours in the lot over here, drive their equipment down, their mower, whatever it happens to be, and come down, that's fine. But the ideal for us is to try to not schedule anything large or big during this period of time. And that's why we're trying to keep to the timeline and provide at least some idea of where we might be in the project. Yes, sir.
Several. One, I looked at the previous efforts throughout the state on paying for the sewer part. Is this a 0% loan that people get over the 10-year time frame?
No.
Most of the counties have done.
No, it's not. I have to defer to the city. I believe, don't hold me to this, and Mr. Bolton spoke to this at a council meeting not too long ago, and has mentioned it in many public forums before, that I believe it's 6%. It's not a loan. I believe some of that has to do, and I'm going to speak way out of turn here, has to do with early payoff of taxes, where you get a discount and so on. I'm not speaking for the city, my understanding is they're not making money on it, they're just recovering what the costs are, but all of those details are going to be addressed at our next meeting by the city.
Hence the motivation to pay up front.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Second, do you know what the depth is? One of the homeowners asked me when I was walking down, what the depth is for the sewer line, because he has an older home, he's concerned about, will his be able to be gravity feed versus have to be pumped?
I'd have to look at the plans, and I don't have them with me right now, but the way we ran it is we had the finished floor elevations for all the houses along the street. I assumed from that finished floor, we went down, I think it was 30 inches, and from there I ran the slope going down to the property line. So there should be more than enough fall.
For even the person on the end of the road?
Correct.
Closest to A1A?
Correct.
Is that the?
So that's the deepest.
So that
So
guy
yes.
has the greatest benefit?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so that answers. The other question was, do you have, does the homeowner have the opportunity to say where the line goes to his house? In other words, if there's, I have this special whatever that's sitting in the yard, please don't cut through the roof. Does the homeowner have some option to determine where that line goes or no?
So we had a public meeting a long time ago where I had a big board and people located where their septic systems were. And I located the cleanouts for that connection based on where those septic systems were. That way you don't have to traverse across your yard.
Right.
If it wasn't identified, we gave a connection at both property lines.
Right, and
So
is the both property lines an option or you're doing both?
they're permitted to do both right now. I don't see why, if the homeowner were to come out and say, my septic system is located here, we could remove the other connection.
Okay. Yeah, it still doesn't make sense to me why you would have two connection points if there's only one that leads the
And
house.
it's because we didn't know where your system was.
Okay.
And
So you're not necessarily going to activate both?
no,
Okay.
you make
It's
one
just-
connection.
I got it.
Okay.
And so in other words, depending on where on the lot it is,
Mhm.
you have the ability to do both so you don't traverse this along the line.
Correct.
Okay. Makes sense.
I have
Yes,
several
ma'am.
questions also. Does the sewer go down the middle of the road, or is it on both sides of the street, or one side, or?
I believe both streets, it's on the north travel lane.
And what happens if you have two septic systems?
So in that case, we have two cleanouts and you could run from each system to your property corner.
Is that a requirement to run two, or can you put
No.
them together?
No, so I know of a property owner that has two septic systems and they're connected via a lift, a small pump that pumps from the one septic to the other one. In that instance, he could make one connection and keep that pump running, or he could remove that pump and make two connections. And it's just less maintenance for the homeowner down the long run.
I'm just thinking of cost.
Oh, yeah, understood.
Whether it's double the cost or not.
Yeah, understood.
Let's see. And how long does it take to complete down each street? Are we talking 2 weeks, a month, 2 days?
I would look to the contractor and their schedule, which is in the schedule that will be provided.
That was really hard to read.
Understood.
Yeah, and we'll definitely email you. And Brad, I know I don't want to block our contractor into a specific, because there can always be a day here, a day there. Not foreshadowing, we've had some situations where we've dug down to some roads and found some stuff that we otherwise didn't know was there, that we had to address, just because of the age of some of the systems and the age of the town. But I think when you get a chance to take a look at this individually, if you have any additional questions about timing, just send us an email and let us know, because some of the references are a little more technical and may not be as substantive in terms of the entire road being closed or large equipment being on the road. So when you get a chance to take a look at that, just please let us know, if it's Beachcomber or Pebble, and we'll go back and dig into it and try to answer your question there.
Do you have a general idea of start to finish, how long we might be talking?
Well, of the entire project, we've already started, and we're looking to really conclude construction, substantial completion by the end of September. We have a few things that we always have to do after, all the trucks leave, as it were. But that's the goal. And within that, there is a lot to do, but that's the overall time frame. But as to the specifics, as we actually get mobilized next week and we begin to move along, it'll be a lot easier to answer those detailed questions. In other words, you're definitely going to see equipment on your road, tomorrow, and you're going to have half a lane, so please be prepared to do X, Y, and Z. That's why it's very important that we get your cell phone number so we can put you on the text alert group and get that out that way. Did you have any more?
That's it, thank you.
You sure? Yes, ma'am.
We live at the east end of Pebble, and there's a new home being built on the east end with many, many heavy, heavy trucks. And you're going to put in this new road, and these big trucks, are you going to be able to deal with the trucks? Can they deal with you? Will the concrete hold up?
Well, I've spoken with our building official and our code enforcement officer, Jake. Everybody likes Jake. Our code enforcement officer, God bless. We're going to be keeping an eye on that, making sure that, of course, we'll have final, documentation about what the road looks like and so on and so forth. And if, a large truck is going to come across and, crack some new, Miami curbing, we're going to be on that. We're going to do our best to coordinate.
They're not very careful right now. If they go through your yard, it's okay.
Right.
So,
It would be great if you would let me know. I'd love to follow up on that when it happens, if it occurs, because we can have those conversations with the contractor and make sure that we do our best to mitigate that. I know that we've spoken to a few people about that and tried to address those issues when they came up. So please let us know as that occurs. But we are aware of it for this project, given the obvious brand new nature, the installation of the stormwater, which we want to work and continue to be well maintained. But thank you for that point. We're definitely going to be watching that.
Two other questions. At the end of the road on Beachcomber, the last time we had a meeting, there was uncertainty, at least the way I heard it, either a half circle or Thor's hammer. Have you decided what the shape of the turnaround is?
It will be a cul-de-sac.
Yes.
It will be a circle, yes.
So the other comment on that is, since I live on Beachcomber, it's really important that it doesn't become a parking lot. And I know that you're keenly aware of it, that no one wants that to happen. It would be valuable to have the signs like you have now. You can't park there. It's a turnaround only, and we don't want people parking there, period.
Yes, that is planned. One of the reasons we haven't kind of changed the signage, as it were, down there yet or done anything else is we're waiting for the project. The cul-de-sac will be set. We can get our, get our signage and everything, both our required signage down there for turtles and so on, and then the parking, no parking, loading and unloading, that kind of stuff, both on the end and otherwise.
Thank you.
Ms. Morgan, we'll come back.
can you kind of review the procedure for landscape replacement and driveway apron management, I guess, or how that's going to work?
Sure, Mike or Brad, did you want to just touch base on that?
So, what do you mean by driveway management?
Well, the driveway aprons, I know they're going to have to come up,
Mhm.
right? And then for people who have pavers, are they going to use the existing pavers to replace? Are they
Correct.
Is concrete going to come into play? How's that?
No, so if you have an existing driveway with pavers, they are listed to be replaced with pavers using the same, they should lift the pavers and reset them. Concrete driveways will become concrete again. If you have a gravel driveway, it will be gravel, but there will be a concrete banding around the gravel to help keep the gravel in your driveway and not coming out into the road. As regard to landscaping, I know we had a brief discussion on that. If there's landscaping by the cleanouts like palm trees, there are things that are easily relocated and replaced, that will take place. If there are items that are in direct conflict with the curbing for the road, that's within the town's right of way, and those would be removed. They are going to do their best to keep existing landscaping existing today.
And if something is removed, will it be moved
I believe it's removed entirely at the moment.
And I think it's a qualified yes, because we talked about palm trees and, hedges and things like that. So long as they're not, interfering with, some of them are actually in the curb that we've seen and so on. So some of those things are going to be moved to the extent that we can. I believe there's at least one fairly, significant tree that's just not subject to being moved. It is in the town right of way. And as I said, to the extent that we can move those things and replace them logically and reasonably, then we will do so, so long as they're not otherwise conflicting with other parts of the project. But to the extent that we can't, then if they are in the town right away, then they will be removed. But we're doing our best to mitigate all of those. Yes?
One more, the stormwater portion that you have on A1A, excuse me, where does that go? In other words, that's not going back into the lagoon, is it?
Are we referring to Beachcomber?
Yes.
So that is going to an exfiltration trench system, so it'll percolate into the ground. There is no direct discharge into DOT or the lagoon. Correct.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I just want to know, when he finishes this thing, do we hook up? Do we hook up with your guys, or do we find somebody?
You will hire your own plumber, licensed?
Hire somebody?
Yes, you will hire a licensed plumbing contractor, and they will do the hookup after we get the permit and clearance from Department of Health.
That's something we do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is there going to be a general permit for the laterals to hook up to the main?
Are you referring to from the homeowner to hook up?
Yeah, are we going to need a permit to hook up to the main, or can we have a general permit?
So I think,
Everybody?
No, it's going to be a individual permit through the building department here with the town. And you would have to hire your own licensed contractor to pull the permit directly through the town for that hookup to your house.
Can we have the GC of this project do the lateral connection? Because they're already there. And it would save us a lot of grief.
It would have to be a licensed plumber. If they're a licensed plumber with the state of Florida, that would be fine.
People that are putting in the sewer, they wouldn't be able to do it? You would think that they would be a licensed?
All I can say is that we didn't contemplate that as part of the town project. If that were to occur, that would have to be a one-to-one relationship, because every one of those is, I don't want to say they're all different, but they're probably a little different in some way or another.
Right, but I'm thinking if everybody got together and did it at the same time, it would be less expensive.
That would seem to make common sense based on a scale standpoint.
So who would we discuss that with? The GC or for you?
Well, I can't recommend anyone specifically. Like, I don't want to recommend a vendor. It would be inappropriate for me to say, I think you should talk to this guy or that girl or that woman or that person. It puts the town in a bad position to recommend a vendor.
He's sitting right there.
Yes, he is. That's the guy. That's Brad from GRSC, our contractor. So.
Then it brings up the question,
What did you say?
how do you coordinate
Supposed to do what?
the connection with the destruction of your septic tank? In other words, is the house connected before the septic tank is disconnected and destroyed? Yes. Okay. Then there's not.
And I just want to mention one thing on the timing. Once clearance is provided, we get the permits from DOH and you're clear to hook up, it's not as if you have to do so in a day, a week, a month. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that you have some time to get settled and maybe determine, hey, everybody on the street, and that's a great idea, because scale might help.
What is that timeframe? How long do you have after to hook up?
The state legislation says 2030. I have to go back. I think it's June 1st or January 1st, but it is 2030. So that's the technical date by which the property owner has to comply.
So we don't, the city of Vero Beach isn't going to require us to hook up, or no one's going to require us to hook up once it's installed.
I think currently the state statute says that the provider of the utility has to send a letter out and just basically states, actually the state statute saying you have 365 days. We basically say sewer is available, you got 365 days to connect.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we have a year.
absolutely, yeah. But is there any enforcement on that from mine? No, it's just, we just basically state the state statute. Yeah.
When did they destroy the septic? You know, I thought part of this was destroying the septic tank.
Well, that's on the property owner, and there are a variety of different manners in which to address that, because that's your property, on your property, those tanks. So those tanks are your property, they're on your property. Normally, people tend to arrange to do the hookup and the removal and all that kind of concurrently with licensed contractors. But again, that's an individual thing. And again, I don't want to tell anyone exactly how to do it, but that's something in terms of coordinating the timing with the contractors.
That's fine, but that's very different than what was presented last time. Last time, if you recall, when they presented the information, they said the septic tank will be crushed. And so that made me think, do they crush this thing, you know, and we have to hook up in 15 minutes? So it's not, they're not connected at all.
No, that may have been a misunderstanding. So the way it works is the connection, or the clean out connection will be at the property line.
Right.
You would then hire a plumber to have your connection made, and once that connection is made, you would then crush your septic. Traditionally, you don't pull the septic tank out and bring in fill, you crush them.
And is it a requirement to crush it?
I think it is a part of the.
I think the Department of Health does require that.
Correct.
It is-
Yes, it is
When you
required.
connect to this,
Yes, because otherwise you'll be out of sewer. You won't be able to flush your toilets without that connection, so you don't,
oh, no,
yeah.
I'm trying to understand. You connect to the sewer.
And then,
And do you have to then ultimately crush or fill or whatever, destroy the septic tank?
Correct.
Because you're connected to sewer, who cares if you have a septic tank?
Department of Health.
that's a Department of Health requirement,
That's what I'm
yes,
trying to
yes,
understand.
yeah, yeah.
So what is the actual time frame? 365 days or 2030?
The legislation says 2030, but there is language in the legislation that talks about, it's confusing, if you've ever read legislation, but it talks about the connections have to be available by 2030, but the provider, in terms of the hookups, if sanitary sewer is available, that's where the 365 days come in, because right now it's not available. And there would be no obligation to do anything until the sanitary sewer is available. And I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear initially.
So I have a quick question. So if you delay, say you delay the 365 days, the amortization, does that start when you connect, or does it start, so you're gonna amortize, amortization over the 10 years, you don't wanna pay it up front. Does it start when you finish your project?
Or when you
Or
connect?
when you connect?
I think the project's done.
When the project's done, process-wise, that will be done in this calendar year. So you will have to make a determination by August 1st of next year. Are you going to pay it all up front, or do you want to go on the tax roll? And that, you know, and then, as I said, you have that middle ground. If you go on, then any year afterwards, up to 10 years, you could pay it off. But yes, sir.
Is the gas company running lines at the same time?
I spoke with Florida City Gas about this months ago and then weeks ago, and they are not going to run their project concurrent with ours. I don't want to get into the engineering, but generally, I don't believe they would necessarily lay into an open hole similar to this based on where their connections are in A1A, but I don't want to speak to that. I've just been told by Florida City Gas that they were not going to run this concurrent. And what that has to do with, whether it's engineering or the number of people on any particular road that said that signed up for it, I don't know, but we did, the town, I personally spoke to Florida City Gas representatives twice on that topic. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any grants that you are aware of or know of that might be in the works to help the homeowners and the cost of the connection?
So as to a question about grants, right now, no. We are looking, I just checked before the legislative special session with Florida, with both DEP and DOH. There wasn't anything at that time, and as I sit here today, I don't know if anything resulted from the special legislative session relative to the budget, but we are going to be looking into that. I will say that historically, the loans or grants have gone to the provider as opposed to the property owner. That's what we've seen with all the previous grants that have come out of Department of Environmental Protection or otherwise, that they've actually gone to the municipality to administer as opposed, directly to a property owner. But I continue to look at that to see if there's anything available. But as I sit here today, I don't know of anything out there.
Because I thought in my research that I had seen some that were available to homeowners up in Sebastian and other areas through the county for up to like $12,000.
And that, I can't speak to Sebastian itself, whether it was in the incorporated areas or not, because as I noted, a lot of that money it's from the state to the political subdivision, the county, because the county's the provider. And so it would go to the wastewater provider and the water provider. But as I sit here now, I don't know of any lump sum of money that's available now. We did look and we couldn't do it prospectively.
What would your recommendations be for who we contact to try to push some kind of a grant be available to homeowners?
Well, certainly at a very straightforward level, your state representative and state senator, also to look, I know it sounds very broad, but look into the DEP website under grants. And again, I know it sounds very basic, but I do that, then I call folks that I know at DEP and say, am I missing something? Is there anything there? Because most of those grants, the announcements come out through emails and through their website. So that's where you see it. A lot of times it's knowing about them beforehand. We continue to look into that. Historically, when we looked into it, the town, because the town was not the provider, couldn't submit a grant application on behalf of the group. And I know I spoke with Mr. Bolton about it at the time, but because we weren't there yet, the application would have been premature and not considered. Where we are now, I think we are ripe because we have costs.
Okay, so would that be through you or through Mr. Bolton?
Through the city. It would be through the city as the provider. And I think we're going to talk about that at some length probably at our next meeting, only because the special session's over. We'll see where money may or may not be available, and and then we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the legislative reference that you make reference to where this was passed, an unfunded state mandate?
So it's HB 1379 was the bill, and that was 2023, 2022 or 2023. I believe it was 2023, HB 1379. And that had a broad swath of environmental regulations, many of which were directly related to certain lagoon management areas, of which we are one, and hence the legislative mandate, which didn't provide any specific funding source for the property owner or for the water provider to engage in this.
Second question, just for clarity. So we're looking at, you've given us an estimate, someone did on a spreadsheet not long ago, of an estimate per household, right, for the cost of this project that's going to go down the north side of the street, each of these streets, is that correct? So each of us are going to pay a portion of this for the main sewer line, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So in light of that, that's one cost, correct? The second cost that we're really talking about then is the homeowner's connection to that sewer line. at the street level, correct?
That's correct.
That's a second, and that's where the licensed plumber, that's where that's where we hire our own people, so to speak, or collectively we work together.
Yes.
So that's a second cost. With respect to any sort of, then there was the landscaping question. Now, where does that cost? Is that a cost to the homeowner? We direct what they're going to replace, or they took pictures and they know what they're going to replace, and that is a cost that the city or the state funded, or whatever the case might be.
The landscaping we discussed is part of the contract.
Okay. And so that may be a shared cost, or that may be a homeowner cost. Is that fair?
Well, go ahead.
The town's paying. That's part of, that cost is part of the roadway improvements.
Okay.
It's not associated with the sanitary.
Okay.
And that's why I was going to mention it's all taxpayer dollars, right? It's whether it's diluted because we have to do the road, we were going to do the road anyways, or whether it's narrow, to your point, relative to the state legislation and those requirements and your individual costs.
I just wanted to clarify, for us as homeowners, there's really at least two costs.
Yes.
That we've got in front of us, and I don't know that that was clear, that wasn't clear to me before I came this morning, so thank you.
No, we're happy to do that, and hopefully we'll get even more detailed in our next meeting. Are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
Who's the arbiter between the construction company and the town when there's a disagreement with the homeowner about landscaping, you damaged my driveway, those sorts of things, my mailbox?
Well, the town is your advocate.
Okay?
I mean, I'm your advocate, myself, our building official. We're here, we're in communication with the contractors. We have as I said, you can walk in our door or you can send us an email to the Septic to Sewer. You have an issue or problem, just please let us know. And I can only say that I have great confidence in our contractors based on the meetings that we've had so far and their experience. Yes, sir.
Yeah, as you put in the curbing or whatever it is, you may have to tear out sprinkler systems along the edge. Who puts those back in again? Is that up to the homeowner to schedule and pay for directly, or is it part of the contract?
That's part of the contract, the movement, replacement, whatever it happens to be, that's part of the contract. That's not a call that you have to make to schedule somebody to do.
Okay. We only have a single access on the driveway and it's concrete. How are we going to get notified when that's being torn up and then replaced? I assume it's probably going to be about a week before we can drive over it again.
Well, in terms of the notification, if you will leave us your cell number, we're going to be putting notifications out about, when certain types of work is going to be done to include that. I can only take a guess about what the time frame would be if you have a single access point and the time before the contractor would feel comfortable with you driving over some of that concrete. I don't know what that is as we stand here right now, but certainly any parking we can, accommodate on the lot at the end of the street, though that would be an inconvenience, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, we're in Pebble, so that's a little more problematic.
We've also talked, and I know it's not as dedicated, but we've talked to DOT, so there's no problem with temporary staging in it's technically their right-of-way, right on the side of A1A, yeah. Yeah, but we want to try to obviously keep anything as close to, as far off the roadway, as possible, and as far back towards the hedge line.
In the description of the work before, we talked about taking out the mailboxes beforehand and then putting them back in again. How's the mail handled during that period?
Well, I believe we're just going to move them and place them back right away for mail to be delivered. Yeah.
All right, that wasn't clear. Again, nobody could read that schedule you had up there. When's an approximate start time for Pebble site?
Well, we look to be staking out Pebble and work on shoulder clearing, and looks like the beginning of June on this schedule. Looks like the very beginning of June. Yes, sir. You have a substantial amount of work in June, but starting roughly about June 8th, the stakeout and the shoulder work and so on.
June 8th?
Yes, sir. Approximately.
Okay, so and then as the project goes along and they're taking steps that are gonna, block the road or whatever, driveways, whatever, that all be handled by the text message?
Yes, yes.
Okay. With hopefully a little bit of warning.
And we're, again, based on the layout, I think the inconvenience is going to be de minimis, though an inconvenience, and it won't be hopefully of any great duration, for anyone. Everyone's very cognizant of the workplace, the space, the fact of the difficulty that some people have getting in and out, so we're very cognizant of that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
This is kind of back to the 956 Pebble Lane. They have a compound that they built 2 years ago, a wall, and they've added 100 rows of stone and dirt. Now when it rains, it flows down Pebble, a slurry of mud and the ponds at the corner at the end of Pebble. My concern is we have to drive through that to get to our garage.
Mm-hmm.
A slurry of mud each time. My concern is, we were promised that none of that would run out of the compound. And my concern is what would happen with a hurricane. It's running out now, and I have a video where I'm standing watching the water just flow back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't really account for what might happen in a hurricane. I do know, I believe the lot you're talking about is not yet sodded or landscaped. I believe, yeah, and that hopefully would mitigate it. And I know we've spoken a couple of times, and to the extent that, we can send our code enforcement officer down there, just, let us know, because I know we've tried to address it, a couple of times in that regard. But, moving forward, actually, that's the design is to funnel those items in the stormwater curbing to the drainage instead of just having them on the road and, loose and coming up people's driveways. That's the whole intent. Yes, sir.
Has this been done previously on other roads, or is this the first combo road sewer?
This is the first one that's occurred since the legislation passed.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if you had an example like that. This is what happened, this is how fast it went,
Mm-hmm.
This was the things we learned.
Mm-hmm. Certainly not the first time it has happened, but it's the first time that we've been involved in it. And again, it's not an unusual project by any far stretch of the imagination. It's not novel or unique.
Just to echo to that, I mean, Brad can probably speak to this too. I think they've probably done many of these types of projects up and down the coast here. So, and Brad's local.
Every project is different, but we've done similar projects. And it makes sense if you've got to open the road up anyway to do the sewer.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to coordinate those together. Yeah.
So with that, if there's no other questions now, I know if you're like me, you're going to get to your car or your house and you'll have a question. So just please email us, but make sure you leave us your email address and a cell number. Within a few days, you'll probably get a text, and the text messaging won't be for you to respond to us. It's for us to notice you of something. And if you have any issues, problems, or concerns, just email us at Septic to Sewer. There's a number of people on that email, so we'll get to those questions and respond as soon as possible.
And what's the email we send this information to?
You can either leave it right here or just email us your name and your cell number, septictosewer@indianrivershores.gov. All right, with that, thank you very much, and we'll notify you as soon as possible about the next meeting. We really appreciate it.